So the first thing that we changed on our robot was we changed the orientation of the overall machine from moving this way to moving in this direction after it's been boxed. And in doing so, we changed the wheels on the robot. We kept these the same, but we had to shorten the axle to fit. And we changed the swivel wheels on the front of the machine to be straight wheels to keep our machine from changing direction.
So for the coding aspect, one of the reasons we changed the orientation of the machine was when we had it like this way, we had to do much more specific coding to get the machine to be right over Buzz, so that we could capture Buzz and send him back to the start zone. With this orientation now, once we hit the front of the centerpiece, then we can measure the distance from the centerpiece to where Buzz is going to be under the machine, and place our mechanism to capture Buzz there, so that we don't have to exactly time when the machine is going to get over Buzz. We just have to capture Buzz once the machine hits the centerpiece.
Okay, so another mechanism that we had from last time was the scissor lift to raise the rocket. And one thing we noticed was that the rocket was, as it was being raised, it was tilting over really, really far. And we figured that was because the bolts that we were using were extremely heavy because they're made out of metal. So that just inherently made it harder to push from the very bottom. It required a lot of force from the motor, and we even used some rubber bands on the insides to help push or squeeze together the scissor arms. So one thing that we're going to change for this next competition is use little nylon bolts. They're much they're much less heavy, and we also got some nylon nuts as well. So hopefully that is going to lessen the weight of the entire scissor lift, so that it requires less force to actually pull the string and then lift the entire rocket itself. It should also make it so that the sway, horizontal sway back and forth, is a little less exaggerated because it's not as heavy falling over. And then the second mechanism that we are completely redoing is the Buzz mechanism that we had. This is from the old machine that we had from the first competition, and this is the underside. And right here, what we used before was this little mousetrap mechanism to push back Buzz. So what we're going to do this time, instead of relying on the kind of unreliable, pretty much a slap to hit Buzz out of the circle, what we're going to do this time is use pretty much a similar paddle, but instead of hitting it backwards, we're going to drive over Buzz, and then release, or have I guess you call it a hinge. Have it barely pull over Buzz so that it locks in place behind Buzz, so that the machine itself can roll backwards into the start zone to get the full 50 points for getting Buzz into the start zone, instead of just relying on hitting Buzz all the way back, because that's pretty unreliable, and we don't really know if it would even have enough force to get it out of the circle itself. Other than that, yeah, we completely redid the base, and so it should look fairly different next time around.
All right, for this competition, the next task we're adding is the RC cars. So our plan for that currently is we're going to have a back-sloped ramp at the front of our machine. This way, when we go down off of the start zone with that little lip, if we had a flat plane for the RC cars to roll along, if we went down that ramp, they would just fall at the front. So with the back slope, that negates that problem. And we'll have the 3 cars sit in channels on the back sloped ramp, so they'll have like walls between each of them, so they're all in their little runway. And then we will have a wall attached to the end of the actuator that will push each of the RC cars out of the ramp, out of the robot, and into the zone for them to sit.